feel like it got a break with Aaron Jones' injury?
Yeah, I'd say so. Anytime that, I don't think it's going to be long term, but you know, we'll just monitor it on a daily basis and see how fast he can heal up, because he's certainly a guy that you want out on the field. He does so much for our team, just not only from a production standpoint, but also just the energy he brings to our team is pretty contagious.
AJ got, some crumbs last year as he was working his way in. How good do you feel about now that he can handle obviously increased workload?
Yeah, AJ's done a great job, and that's what we expect out of him. And I think the one thing that he's brought that maybe especially we didn't know throughout until you get a guy here, but just the value that he's provided in the pass game as a receiver out of the backfield. He's done an outstanding job with that.
Even though Aaron's injury isn't the worst that a knee injury could be, he's had 4 of these now. Is it any different when you've had a recurring injury that's the same thing to the same knee in terms of the recovery and being careful with him?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's not something I've talked to Flea about, and I would think that typically, you heal up no matter what you do. You heal up, and so I don't think it'll be a huge problem moving forward. But I have not asked that specific question.
With Rashawn, is that kind of the same type timeline? Not a major.
Yeah, that's still. I mean, we're still evaluating him, so I don't really have much to add on Rashawn.
How about on Whitney?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, that's man, I feel bad for him. Shoot, he would have had potentially a second sack right there. Just the stability he brings to that room, and this guy's a pro's pro. He's been doing it at a very high level for a long time, and it's just one of those unfortunate things that happen.
So how do you move forward with? Obviously, you've been thin there for a lot of the year. Now you're thin there again.
Yeah, I think that's something that I know Goody and our entire scouting department is looking at every potential option, and we have some guys on our practice squad, and we'll just kind of see where we have to go.
Is Whitney's thing? Can he be back? I mean, what's the timeline for him?
Yeah, I can't give you a great answer on that. That's not something that I've talked to Flea about, but I was assuming.
Matt, defensively, just what have you thought of the stretch, this group has been on, especially, with some of the injuries, to be able to be, I think they're 3rd right now in total defense. Just what have you thought of how they've been able to kind of, put this together despite some of the losses?
Yeah, I mean, they've done a great job, and it's everybody. It's the collective. It's the coaches have done a great job preparing our players, and then the guys out on the field have been playing with great energy and great effort. And I think that's usually the mark of a really good defense. And we still got a lot of ball in front of us, though, and so we got to make sure that we continue to keep stacking these great games, and we'll see where we're at the end of the thing.
Matt, whenever Bakhtiari is ready to go, obviously one of those 3 interior guys is going to become like the 6th man. Do you make that decision sort of based on who's playing the best right now, or do you look at it in terms of kind of their whole body of work for the season, because those guys have all played quite a bit now?
Yeah, I think we look at the entire body of work, and then certainly that definitely plays a part of it and where we are in the moment. But I think you got to look at everything, and it's great to have a lot of guys that have played in terms of just the depth that you add to that position.
What do you think the lack of practice snaps hurt Aaron the most, and what surprised you about how well he was able to function in some other areas?
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of great things he did, and I think there were a couple balls that he threw that we had opportunities to come down with, and we didn't do it. So certainly there was, I know the one throw to Alan Lazard, that deep one, I think that happened on a third down that he'd like to have back. But I thought, for the most part, I thought he threw the ball pretty accurately. I thought outside the red zone decision when we threw the one up to DeGuara, I thought for the most part his decision making was on point as well. And I think that's such a credit to him to be so locked into the game plan, to know it inside and out, and be able to operate and function at a high level without any practice time. Because really, if you trace it back, I mean, shoot, we haven't really practiced a whole bunch. I mean, he basically, the week before Arizona was all walkthrough. So it sounded like he was getting a ton of time with these guys. And then we had different receivers the last time he played, and then you're getting all these guys back. So naturally, there was probably a little bit of a dip in terms of from our passing game. But I think it's everybody. We got to get back out on the practice field. We need those guys just to, continue to work on the timing portion, making sure that the details of our route depths and our assignments are on point. Because I think right now, if you just look at the offense as a whole, there is opportunity out there for us. I know we can execute at a higher level. I know we can coach at a higher level, and we're just a little bit off with some of the details, and I think that's really kind of hurt us throughout, really specifically yesterday, but even throughout the course of the season.
With that said, with Aaron, how much did you have to pare down the game plan from what would be a normal game plan last week with him not being able to execute in practice? And can you expand on that then this week with him being back?
Yeah, I would say, so typically we have about a set number of plays that we're going to install, because you always want to have enough if a team gives you maybe something that you're not expecting. So you got to have different beaters. So as far as a volume standpoint, I would say that it was as normal as always. We had the same number of plays we typically carry. I think the one thing that we're mindful of is just having some of those game plan specific plays or new ads where you just want to be we were cautious about putting too much of that in without him getting those reps in practice to feel comfortable with those plays.
Matt, how are you guys going to figure out which corners to play when everyone's healthy?
That's a great question. Just put them all out there. It's a great problem to have, because I think as a whole, obviously, the defense has been playing really well, but I think really specifically the defensive backfield has done an outstanding job. The OG, Jerry, has done a great job with all those guys. Ryan Downer doing a great job with them. But it's a challenge, but it's a good problem to have.
Is what Kevin did yesterday kind of what you envision as what he can be when he stays healthy?
Absolutely. I thought he's been playing physical. He's been making plays. He's been challenging guys. I think the competition in that room has kind of brought the best in everybody, and that's always what you're trying to do is when you're putting together a team. And Goody has done a hell of a job putting a lot of talented people in that room.
So going back to the offense and the practice time. So how do you get the practice time where you mentioned last night that you guys are tired, you had a head and shoulders day on Wednesday. So how do you find the balance of getting a lot of reps but also keeping the guys fresh?
No, that's the trick right now. And I think, when we have, I don't even know what week are we going on. I feel like it's week 11. Without a bye, it does get long. So that is going to be a challenge, I think, for us in terms of how do you make it so that we're getting what we need from a actual practice standpoint, but yet keeping everybody fresh, and so we can fly around, because the speed is absolutely one thing that can benefit you, and the more you practice, sometimes it takes away from that. So you want guys healthy, you want to be able for them to go out there and fly around. I think one thing that we were kind of just talking about in terms of when we are doing our walkthroughs, which more of a I guess jog through type tempo, is just making sure that we are absolutely precise in everything we do, from the footwork, whether you're a lineman, receiver, quarterback, running back, tight end, it doesn't matter. Just making sure everything is so precise in those types of settings, because it is slowed down. We should be absolutely perfect, not only assignment-wise, but technique-wise as well. And that's one thing that we got to make sure, I think as a coaching staff, we got to make sure that we're getting that stuff done in those types of settings.
We haven't asked you as much about the red zone defense lately, so I guess the field goal operation has taken its place. When you go back and watch the film, what needs to change there? How do you fix that?
Yeah, I think that was one of those things where maybe the timing was just a little bit off, because when I watched the tape, you could see I think Mace started to lean a little bit forward, anticipating the snap, and then the snap was the timing of it was a little bit off. But you know, that's we got to obviously get that corrected, because that's going to, you never want to have that impact a game, and it has, I guess you could say, potentially 2 weeks in a row.
With all the issues that have been going on with the operation, is Mason comfortable right now? I mean, it seems like it'd be hard to be comfortable when there's so many things that have been going wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's real for anybody in that position, but I think he's also showed his resiliency to get back out there, and then, you know, we made the field goal and the 2 PATs after that. So, you know, I'm hoping that it's trending in the right direction. But again, that's something that we got to continually work on a daily basis, is to make sure that it's flawless. I did think our protection was much better in this game. That's the best I feel like we've protected on that unit this season.
Does that change how you call a game when you feel like there might be issues with the field goal unit?
I don't know necessarily if it changes how you call it, but certainly maybe some of the decisions that you're making in those situations, you might want to be a little bit more aggressive on a 4th down. I feel like we've been somewhat aggressive, but I've got a lot of confidence in Mason and in that entire unit to go out there and get it done. So as of right now, I would say it's not having a huge impact on our decisions that we're making on game day.
You had a lot of shotgun runs yesterday. What was the thinking there?
It was part of the plan in terms of we knew that traditionally Seattle plays a lot of zone defense, and they did again yesterday. Probably dropped 8 more than we've seen in a really long time. And I thought it was actually some pretty good stuff that they did. I mean, they were getting, it basically had 5 across on the line, and then they're dropping the edges. I know that it hurts your pass rush, but it limits your ability to get explosives downfield in the passing game. So, but we had some shotgun runs that we were going to try to take advantage if they gave us looks to deal the ball out on the perimeter, and we hit a bunch of those in the game. I know Tay had a few receptions on those. So it's just, that's kind of like a game-by-game thing, just in terms of how do you want to attack somebody, and what is your plan for that.
Back to those 2 screens on, I think, 3 snaps, and you mentioned yesterday Hackett was in your ear about, let's run some more, but did you have in mind you wanted to call another one that looked almost exactly the same snap after the first one that was a success?
Yeah, well, it probably should have called a few more, actually, because they were hitting pretty good. And matter of fact, we had one earlier in the game where we had a drop on it to Aaron Jones that had a chance to be another decent gain. So it's just, again, it's one of those things when we were looking at and looking at the tape of Seattle's defense, that we felt like opportunity to get some screens off and get them called, and had potential to be explosive gains, which 2 of those were. And then you could also see just some of the checkdowns to the backs that had opportunities to be explosives. I mean, if somebody's going to play that off and soft, then you got to be willing to deal the ball down and take what they give you.
All right, let's go to Zoom. Sarah, go ahead.
Yep, we have 2. Go ahead, Rob Domofsky.
Hey Matt, when you hired Joe as defensive coordinator, why was it important to keep the rest of the staff intact?
Yeah, that was certainly a lot of discussion on that in terms of how you want to go about it. And I believe in those guys. I think they're first and foremost, they're great men. And I thought they did an excellent job. And so, I know that going in from Joe's perspective, that's not always easy to do, is to be the only guy that's new on one side of the ball, and you're going in with a bunch of guys that you might not have a bunch of experience with. That's certainly something that we talked about prior to him accepting the job here. And but I'll got to give Joe a ton of credit in terms of just him embracing that opportunity, and same with the guys for that group of men to embrace Joe and take him in as well. And so I think it's really meshed really well, but I think it has everything to do with just the type of people they are first and foremost.
And Greg Matzek?
Hey man, with regard to Whitney's injury, you mentioned Goody's got a little work to do in reference to practice squad as well. You did not reference Darius Smith at all. Do you envision him being able to suit up for you this season and potentially helping at that position down the stretch?
Yeah, I just, sure, I hope that happens, but again, I think that we'll just kind of wait and see how he progresses, but we're certainly hopeful, but we know that nothing's guaranteed there.